chatting with you and hearing what questions you have. I have a couple of quick reminders before we dive into questions. I'll put some links that I'll go over in chat as well for you to be able to look at. But I wanted to highlight just our kind of cadence that we have. We have our office hours every Wednesday from 8 to 9 a.m. Pacific time for those in the US and EMEA. If this is your first time joining, we look forward to hearing your feedback, but we have this as an ongoing mechanism to hear your feedback. And then we also have our APAC office hours that occur on the second Wednesday of every month from 4 to 5 p.m. Pacific time for folks based in the APAC time zone as well. But in between these two office hours, if there are other questions that you have, other things that come up, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We monitor our GitHub discussions channel quite heavily, and we go through and triage that daily. And then Discord is a great place to be able to learn from other customers and what folks have been doing. Want to highlight a couple of our updated releases. For Python, we have a couple of quick bug fixes, a couple of items that are now out at 1.18.2. And so there is update to our samples in the README concepts that Evan has gone through and done. So just wanted to highlight that to folks. And then I know we'd highlighted it last time, but just want to reiterate that for .NET, we are in 1.33.0. And so there's a number of changes from the Amazon connector, Olama, and others that we've gone through and added. So if you haven't had a chance to look at our latest releases, do take a moment to do that. I've added the links to that in chat. And then with that, I'm going to go into our last reminder. This is going to be our last week that we have our community survey open. And so if you've already taken the time to give us feedback, we really appreciate. But if you haven't, we'd really appreciate if you can just take a few minutes to give us feedback on what you've liked, what areas you want to see more content on, areas to improve. The one place that I'll highlight is with our docs, right? We heard a lot of your feedback. We've been going through and iterating and updating. And so we really take your feedback very seriously. And so I'd love to be able to hear from you if you haven't had a chance to fill out, but I've seen a good number of you put in your responses for that already. And so really appreciate everyone's time with that. And then for our blog post, there's a couple that I want to highlight, and I'll turn it over to Tao as well to go through a brief walkthrough. But I want to highlight that we have a guest customer blog post that goes through AI agents with tools via open APIs and walks through hands-on of how to be able to deploy this. And so if you haven't had a chance to look through this, I'd recommend it. And then with that, for our other blog posts that we have out, I'm actually going to go ahead and turn it over to Tao to dive into Semantic Kernel AI connectors. Tao?
Yeah, thank you, Sophia. Can you all hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, cool. All right. Yeah, my name is Tao, and the importance of this blog post is actually not its content; it's how it was created. So let me share screen and go through the post. Sorry, I just joined the meeting, so I didn't have anything set up yet. How do I go there? Yeah, so as you can see, the contents of the title of the blog post, Understanding Semantic Kernel AI Connectors. But then as you read the blog post and then you follow through the code and then have the code running and then you read the conclusion, it will see a small notes down here. So this blog post is generated entirely by AI. Us human didn't change anything in there besides the formatting. So the AI generated Markdown, but we had to convert it into a format that's acceptable by this blog format, which is I think in WordPress. So yeah, so this is generated entirely by AI using Semantic Kernel's own agent framework in Python. So this is an attempt for us to start using more and more AI integrating more and more AI into our own workflow. And the way it worked is we have a couple agents. The first one is the content creation agent, and then the second one is a code reviewer agent, and then the third one is a user agent. So the content creation agent is responsible for creating the entire content and revising the contents based on feedback. And then the code review agent is responsible for executing the code and then returning any error messages or making suggestions on how to change the code or how to correct the code. And then a user feedback agent is responsible for providing the latest draft to the user and ask for user feedback. So these three agents work together to create this content, and since we use the semantic kernel agent framework, it's very easy to add more agents and to even make the content longer and more comprehensive. And each agent has its own set of plugins that it could use. For example, the content creation agent will have a plugin that could read the source file from the semantic kernel repository, and the code review agent has a plugin that could has a code execution feature that it could execute a Python code. Yeah, so that's it. That's the thing I want to talk about. It's this blog post is generated entirely by AI using semantic kernel's own agent framework. And yeah, that's it. I'll give it back to Sophia.
Great, Tao. Really appreciate you walking through and sharing with the community. Are there any questions that folks have for Tao? Hey, Logan, I see your hand if you want to come off of mute.
Hi, where can I get the code sample, if that's possible?
The code it's in it's in a PR. I can send out a PR.
Please, that'd be great.
Great. Other questions folks may have. And these can be related to the blog post, or if you just have other office hours questions, the floor is yours. We'd love to hear from you. Logan, I see your hand up. Would love to hear from you if you want to come off of mute.
Yeah. So from my understanding, AI Foundry tracing is supported in Python. It's not currently yet supported fully in C#, but from semantic kernel point of view. Do we know when that will be the case?
Yeah, great question. Ben or Mark, do you want to dive into a timeline on it?
Yeah,
Sorry.
actually, would have deferred to Tao, like who possibly knows the difference between what's implemented in Python and .NET best.
Yeah, it's supported in Python for all the connectors. I think in .NET, it depends on the timeline on which we'll build our connectors on top of Microsoft.ai extensions. Do you know when, Mark?
Yeah, so we have basic integration with Microsoft Extensions AI at the moment, and they do have a middleware for generating telemetry right now. So so you can use those AI services. But for our existing AI services, yeah, I thought we already had support for some of them. some of the legacy ones already. I probably need to dive into this in more detail.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
legacy ones is the very first version of the semantic convention.
Yeah.
But the tracing UI from Azure Foundry, they only recognize the latest version of the Gen AI convention. The ones that we have, it's outdated, but the ones that are in Microsoft.ai.extension are up to date. So if you're using a connector that's built on top of the Microsoft.ai.extension, then you should be good to go.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So we are. I shouldn't refer to existing AI connectors as a legacy. Like they're going to be supported kind of going forward, right? So there is a piece of work for us to do to update the telemetry, and it's part of our planning for this semester. We don't have an exact date at the moment, right? But I can. Yeah, we're just wrapping up planning at the moment, so I should have a clearer picture by next week.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks for the question, Logan. Appreciate it. Other questions folks may have? I'm not seeing anything in chat either, but we'd love to hear from you else. This may be a shorter office hours, but if there's other scenarios you're working through, we'd love to even dive into those, but would love to kind of learn from the community.
I'll just come on. I guess everyone's groggy coming back from the holidays or still off on holidays. Coming back with your questions. I'll just plug again from Sophia. Now is a great time to go and take a look at that survey that we're doing. It really helps us set set direction for Semantic Kernel. So it just takes like 3 or 4 minutes to do, and it really helps us out. And that segues nicely into next week we'll look a little bit closer at our roadmap for the next 6 months. So that'll be an exciting one for folks to join next week.
Perfect. I put the survey link just in chat again in case anyone's joined since I shared it out. But yeah, I would love to hear from folks and any of your questions that you have, as Sean mentioned, we'll be back next week with roadmap. But other things that folks are looking for in terms of issues they may be encountering, I'd love to hear from you. Yeah, if there are no other questions, we can go and end this week's office hours. I'll stay on here for a couple of minutes in case folks have questions that they're typing or thinking of, but if there are no other questions. I want to thank everyone for joining.
Cheers. Thank you.
Hi, Sophia.
Hi.
Hey, sorry, if you have few minutes, can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to dive into it.
So actually, I was looking into this process framework of semantic kernel, and I've been exploring this for a potential use case that I'm trying out. And what I can see is that this is currently marked as experimental. And also, since this process framework it works on an event-driven architecture, so it depends on different cloud runtimes. I think the suggested framework was Orleans and Dapper, right? But I do not see any sample code of how this cloud runtimes will be working with process framework. So I wanted to check if there is any such timeline, when this particular framework will get a stable version and when such samples for the cloud runtimes will be available.
Yeah, great questions. In terms of the samples with Dapper and Orleans, let me go into the repo and put some links in chat. That is something that we're working on finalizing out, and you should see some updates to our documentation shortly that walk through that in even more detail. In terms of with it being experimental, that is something that in the next coming months leading up to Microsoft Build in the May timeframe, just in the next couple of months, we'll have it actually at that stable version and finalized, released out. Are there certain customers that you're wanting to deploy with that you're kind of depending on getting out of experimental? We'd love to hear feedback from them and happy to talk more with you one-on-one too.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. I think that will be great. So I can also speak with my teammates because they might also have some questions around this. Yeah, definitely we are waiting for a stable version because we have a certain deployment timeline or production release for the customer. And that is why we are evaluating if using the process framework is the right approach for us.
Got it. Yeah, it's great to hear that you've been experimenting through. And yeah, I would just say stay tuned for the next couple of weeks for some updated documentation. I will go here into the repo and grab some of the samples too, because there have probably been some updates if you haven't looked recently that we've recently merged in. So let me grab that as well. Any other questions you have on process framework? I know we still have some more time in office hours, so happy to dive into it.
Um, I have some questions regarding the use case that I have been trying, but is it okay if I schedule a one-on-one call because some of my other teammates might also want to
Yeah,
join? And
absolutely.
okay, awesome. So I will do that. For the time being, if you can share the PRs with me, or is there any updated documentation, then that will be great. I can then take a look.
Perfect. Let me grab the documentation and the updates that are going through, and I'll grab the link to the repo as well. And then just as we do still have a few more folks who are on who haven't dropped, are there any questions that any folks who are still on have? I'd love to dive into them if they are. Okay, if not, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. I'll stay on and get those links in chat, but want to thank everyone again for joining in.